Hi there. Welcome to the third episode of Overheard Orlando. Today I'll be talking with Chris Catino, who hails from Claremont. About 3 years ago, Chris's life completely changed when he was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis. Originally, in my mind, I had this episode slated much later down the line. However, I wanted to take the opportunity both to recognize March as Multiple Sclerosis Awareness Month and to give you a break from the latest coverage on the society-toppling strain of coronavirus that is currently, well, everywhere. A quick editor's note before we begin. You are going to hear my guest Chris refer to a girl by the name of Sarah. That is his long-term girlfriend who was in the room during the recording, just so you have a little context. So, without further ado, let's get into it. Alrighty, so I'm here with Chris Catino. He's going to be talking a little bit about his personal philosophy as far as living with multiple sclerosis and just some general life stuff. So I guess let's just jump right in. Chris, how did you find out that you had this disease?
Well, that kind of came up to me as a surprise. Last year, February, a little over a year ago, actually, at this standpoint, I was in a motor vehicle accident. At which point, the normal kind of stuff happened where you go to a doctor or you have herniated discs, a lot of inconvenience. But the unusual thing for me was I found that I had a lot of numbness that was abnormal in comparison to someone that would have herniated discs. In the instance of the accident, the light console had actually popped out from the top of the car, still attached to the electrical panel, whacked me in the back of the head. And so discussing that with my doctor, he thought, oh, you know, it's unusual, but let's check it out. Let's go ahead and get a MRI of your head and see if there's something there that could help denote exactly what's transpiring here.
And I guess that's at that time is when you kind of got the news at that point. So what changed for you? Like, how did that change your life? Like, what was next at that point?
Well, I remember when the doctor pulled me in and he said, hey, I need you to sit down. And he's like, this could be a sign of multiple sclerosis. And, you know, he expected me to be kind of like really taken back by the subject, you know, and here I am. I'm just excited it's not cancer, you know? He was like, you know, there's some spots. And I'm like, well, what do you mean spots? And so he was really kind of taken back by my own impression that it wasn't something that really took me off. And so, like, I guess to truly answer your question is at first, I didn't really notice major change. Like, it was just a medical condition. Like, I didn't feel sick. Like, identifying it as something major, I knew right away I didn't want it to be something that defined me or defined my life. It was just another challenge that we were facing, and it was one way or the other, we were going to get through it.
Awesome. So your life before the diagnosis and your life after the diagnosis, what changes did you notice as far as how you lived your day-to-day life, how you viewed just things like work or getting a cup of coffee or, you know, dating or things like that? Like the normal day-to-day stuff, how did that change for you? If I'm not mistaken, you were diagnosed, you know, in your late 20s, I believe it was?
Yes. I was diagnosed in my late 20s, and like my symptoms, I mean, for starters, everyone with MS, multiple sclerosis, has different symptoms. My own personal challenges, I dealt with tingling, numbness, slight memory loss, nothing major compared to those that, you know, God bless their souls, that have major issues with that. But yeah, I had challenges with numbness, tingling, vision issues, dizziness, like the room spinning. You know, one of my most recent aspects would be like feeling like the ground beneath me was really just falling away. The easiest way to describe it is like if you're in a small earthquake, what that sensation's like for a normal person. I remember watching a video early on after my diagnosis of this group in Great Britain that did this. It wasn't a study, but it was just like a fun experiment thing where they took this coffee shop and they added in a bunch of tricks and trinkets there to let normal patrons feel what it's like to have MS. And so what these patrons would experience when they went in is they would see like the menu board go from normal transparency to blurred. The tables would shake. You would like lose your balance because like the flooring wasn't quite right. And it just kind of put everything in a topsy-turvy aspect of their own paradigm. And so to say what changed for me, the easiest way to describe what changed for me is it was like I was in a new body. What I knew isn't what I knew anymore. From a mental perspective, nothing changed. From a physical perspective, everything changed. Like I had to relearn what my new normal was.
I can't even begin to imagine what that would be like. That's wild. So what was the incident that occurred that first caused you to seek out medical attention? What happened that you were like, something's not right here?
So after the accident, I took a weekend off and went right back to the office on Monday. That wasn't a problem. And I was fairly confident that I'd be fine. But before that point, you got to realize it's like, I was in a car accident and I was just laying around and sitting down. So some of the minor side effects that you would be experiencing, you totally don't notice until you're like physically moving and really working it. And so when I get in the office and the job that I do, I'm fairly on my feet a lot. I slowly started to freak out because I couldn't feel my legs. Like I couldn't feel my hands. Like things were tingling. And this is like the first time that I've really experienced it. And this is before the diagnosis altogether. And I go to my coworker and I'm like, this is crazy. I don't get it. Like, and my anxiety level skyrocketed. Like I imagine my blood pressure was up there. And what I found over time is the more you freak out about the circumstance or the symptoms you are, the more those symptoms are exasperated. So I was personally making it worse by the second. And so that was the first moment. And so I left work early that day right away and went to my doctor. And by the end of the weekend, after the diagnosis came in, I was back in the hospital getting first my spinal tap for a medical diagnosis, like a full confirmation that this is what I have. And then from that standpoint, a treatment to kind of quiet things down. Because like there's no cure for multiple sclerosis. There's just Band-Aids and hope and a prayer to get things to go into remission. I don't think anyone can plan for disease, but like the reality is the last 3 years of my life, I had just recently gone through a divorce, switched my job around a couple of times. I had a personal business thing that I was doing, and I finally had my life going in a direction that I wanted. I'm in love, I'm happy, like things are awesome. And then literally one morning I'm going to work. It should be normal, hoo-ha, it's the beginning of February, brand new year, everyone's like, yes, let's do it. It's a new year. And crash, everything changes. Within that week, my whole world was upside down.
So fast track to now. How are you dealing with it now? How do you get through the bad days? Do you ever, is there something that you tell yourself every morning when you wake up? Do you view life differently? Like it's not a disease that is going to take your life in 3 months. It's a hill to climb, to say the least, to put it very lightly. Is there any kind of worldview that helps you out through it, or any kind of like mantra?
Yes, 100%. I have had a collection of different worldviews in my life that really have defined my way. And I will say that the last decade of my life, really in my career, it's been a path of failing forward. I don't look at success about how many times you make it, but how many times you get beat down and get back up. And so in that perspective, I'm a professional at losing. And but a lot of people will look at that same paradigm and say, hey, Chris, you have had a lot of success. Wow. Oh my God, if only I could do that. If only I could do this. And that's cool and all. But the reality is just understanding that you never give up. Like you haven't failed until you've decided to give up. And so how am I taking it now? In my life, in my own paradigm, I've found strength in what I'm experiencing and the ability to help others, knowing that what I do is a new personal challenge for me that's bigger than I've ever thought I'd be challenged with. And yet I'm still pushing forward and I'm still have the ability to accomplish a lot regardless of what I'm facing. And if it gives me the opportunity to give strength to others that don't have those challenges or do have those challenges or have different challenges, to say, hey, we all come from different backgrounds. What do you want? Let's get you there.
Definitely some different personal philosophies there is what I'm getting. Speaking about a disease like MS that requires, some constant maintenance and care, what has been your experience so far in the healthcare industry, in the world of health insurance and medical billing and, all that kind of thing? What have you kind of experienced in that realm?
Well, I mean, I'm sure others can relate with this, but you go to the hospital and it's treatment. And the moment you get out of the hospital, it's hurry up and wait. The doctors at the hospital were all great intention. They wanted me to go to a specialist here in Orlando. And I found out because of my insurance, the way it works, which is ironic because it's owned by the same companies. I won't name drop or anything like that, but essentially this insurance company divided itself up into two different HMOs and had different reasons, but it's all owned by the same people. But because of their definitions for whatever the purpose was, at this time, I could not go to the specialist that I needed. And so I had to go to any neurologist. And I had friends and different people, even doctors themselves, that said, hey, go to Tampa where they have some teaching schools on this. It's a tough subject, it's a tough area. You're not always going to find people that are available to help you and that type of thing. And the insurance companies, when you spoke to them, it was just a matter of, well, it's a brain issue, so you talk to a neurologist. There's no such thing as a specialist for multiple sclerosis. Fast forward a year later, I was able to swap HMOs and see the specialist that I wanted to see. But just my experience in the specialist office, it's night and day. I mean, the amount of comfortability, like you have to understand is like with MS and my ability to think and brain fog, like your comfortability changes everything with the way you communicate. And so like issues that I couldn't really get across with the other neurologist who, again, is doing her best to improve your care of life, I feel like I didn't quite have the ability to communicate that and really get clarification or closure on different subjects in my life and different things that I was concerned about because of the environment, not so much of what was going on. And that was all kind of tied up through the medical field and all the different hoops you got to jump through. Like I didn't get to my first neurologist until 3 months after my diagnosis, at which point, within 6 months of the situation, I had three separate flare-ups. One of the flare-ups was seizures, grand mal seizures that kind of kept me out of driving for 6 months. And that was inconvenient. And thankfully, I have not had a seizure since, but there was that challenge. But from that standpoint, it just took me forever to get into the neurologist. And then after I was in the neurologist, because of the insurance industry and the way it works, in order to get the medication that I wanted as opposed to the medication they wanted to give me, it just took forever because I had to have them deny it twice before I could go to other outlets to get financing for that. Thankfully now, like I'm blessed and everything's paid for 100%, and not even through the insurance company, through other resources that I've had the opportunity. But I mean, the realistic aspect is if I had to pay for this out of pocket, it would cost me $60,000 a month. And even if the insurance did pick it up, it wouldn't be cheap.
That's kind of an unfortunate thing about the state of the healthcare system, just in the fact that you couldn't see the doctor best suited for you simply because of invisible boundaries that were put by, healthcare companies and stuff, and that you couldn't get the medicine that would best help you, again, by these invisible rules and things that aren't really there. So I would imagine that with a diagnosis as colossal as MS and so life-changing, I would imagine that you not only need a healthcare support system, but I'm sure you have a support system of people in your life. Is there anyone in your life that has kind of made this process easier? Any people, friends and family or anything that just have really eased you into this or kind of make it worth the fight?
A support system is crucial. I'm in love. I'm very happy. Sarah is a major part of my life and every aspect. Like when I have my darkest moments that I don't show anyone, she helps me get there. About 2 months back, like I had a moment with my career and whatnot, where some words were said and I was unpacking baggage I didn't even have. And I didn't know how bad it would affect me. Like literally a sentence is all it was. And it, this happens to everyone. You don't know what you're packing up if you're not really true with yourself. And part of my philosophy with not accepting this challenge has been to push forward. Like there's no pretending it doesn't exist, but like, I'm going to take on everything I can. And so when this came crashing down, a new alter reality, I was in such a dark place. But, Sarah, who's closest to me, helped me get through it. And I don't think I could have done that as efficiently or even possibly without her. Family, I have a close-knit group at church, like all play a big part. And having a good core group of individuals that support you, it's major. I mean, you need that in your life to push forward. Can you get through it without it? Sure. But why would you want to?
I absolutely love that response, actually. I think it's very important to have those kinds of people in your life. I think everyone should have someone that's there for them. It's a beautiful thing, and I don't think people really realize the impact that you can have on someone's life. And, you could be someone's reason for getting up in the morning and not even know it. And I think that's such an incredible thing. All right. So unlike other diseases, for example, going back to the cancer thing you mentioned, people can kind of see someone who has been going through chemotherapy. Oftentimes you can kind of know someone has cancer. That is not the case with MS. How do people treat you differently before knowing your diagnosis and afterwards?
I think often people forget about it. Before my diagnosis, people treated me pretty normal. And I was very open about telling people what was going on in my life when it came to it. And it's hard. It's hard because people try to treat you the same, and you're not the same. You have challenges that are invisible that people can't see. And often, like, you're not okay. And people ask, hey, how are you doing? And you just automatically say, I'm good, because there's a sense of, I don't want to go into it. But there's something to learn from that from everybody, because how often do you ask someone out in the world, oh, how are you doing? And then you say, good. And it kind of ends there in that perspective. But it hurts more, at least when you're in a concept or mind frame that there's physical attributes to what you're facing that people can't see. And so you lie about it and you say you're okay and that you're good because you don't want any extra or anything along those lines. But, if you're depressed, you try to hide it, but you can't always. So how do people treat me differently? They don't treat me differently, but sometimes like you look at the struggles that others have in their life, and it's hard to not be like, don't you understand how easy it really is? And that goes both ways. Is the paradigm is it always looks like the grass is greener on the other side. You don't really know what they're going through 100%, just as they don't know what you're going through.
Man, that is such an important response that you just gave me there. You really just don't know what anyone's going through. Sometimes asking is not enough. Sometimes saying, how are you is, it's almost become, it's such a greeting to say, how are you doing? Or how are you? Or whatever, that no one's really responding truthfully and no one's really saying what's going on. A lot of people live through a personal hell and they don't reach out to anybody, and they don't take those steps. It's easier to just say good than to try to explain your situation or to reach out, or, for a multitude of reasons people do that. But I really loved that response. I really did.
I found that over time, I ask, how are you doing, less often, unless I'm intentional behind it. When I get the I'm doing fine or I'm good, I try to read into it, because like from a communication standpoint, what you say is such a small portion of what you're actually saying. People's body languages, the way they look in their eyes, the direction that they're looking, their tonality, a lot of it has to do with what they're actually saying. And I found that you get people to open up a lot more when you dive into those aspects of their communication, as opposed to just the verbal aspect of the word, I'm okay, or everything's good, I had a great weekend. Because as you learn in your life to become a better communicator, it betters you, whether you have MS or anything on those life. But with your relationships, if you take the time to really read into the other aspects of the communication, because if 33% of everything you say is the verbal aspect, like what you actually physically say, the rest is tonality, the rest is body language. When you just take a person at their word saying that I'm okay, you're failing as a listener. you didn't really want to ask the question in the first place.
That's why I think it's pretty popular now to say, like, check on your friends that are doing well as your friends who are not. But really check in, I think, is the important thing to say. Really check in. Really pay attention to those behaviors like you mentioned. Really get a feel for what's going on. They tell you they're good when you feel like something's off. Go the extra mile to kind of make sure that they're doing all right. I think that all parties involved, I think everybody could benefit from that. I mean, I try to make sure that all of my friends know that I'm here for them and that they can reach out to me. I work a lot. I do this podcast. I'm not always going to reply right away, but I'm always here. Is there anything else that you would want to say, perhaps? Anything else you want to get off your chest before we wrap this thing up?
Yeah, totally. You've heard of the golden rule, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Treat others as you'd like to be treated. And I think I lived my life on the aspect of the platinum rule, which is treat others as they like to be treated. And here's the key to it is you have to get to know somebody to be able to treat them the way they want to be treated, because no one's going to tell you that outright. And so no matter what aspect, what demographic, what segment you come from, there's so much pain out in the world today. There's, so much going on that people are struggling with, and they just want to be recognized. And the reality is you got to take the time to get to know them. And I think like with MS, that's no different. Each individual is different. Each person's got a different aspect that's going on. And each symptom is different for the people because it deals with your spinal cord, it deals with your brain. Depending on which nerves are affected, changes everything. And so just because it's a disease or just because it's where you grew up from or your financial aspect, like there's so much struggle out there. And it's just take the time in your life to recognize that and get to know people and treat people the way they want to be treated.
Man, I absolutely love that. The platinum rule is definitely something I'm going to be adhering to and kind of taking with me from this interview. And I'm going to be using that again, actually. So don't be surprised if you hear me talk about that. So with the do unto others kind of mindset, the way you want to be treated is not necessarily the way someone else wants to be treated. Something that doesn't bother you might be very, very offensive or endlessly bothersome to another person. So you definitely want to get to know someone and figure out what is the most respectable way to present yourself to them. There's an event that you want to kind of talk about.
Yeah, totally. So the month of March is home to many different groups, one of which happens to be MS. I know that there are other diseases out there that claim fame to this month, but MS is one of the ones that really focus on in this month. And so this month, at the end of the month, March 28th, there's an MS walk here in Orlando, and individuals are doing the walk and trying to raise funds to support the National Multiple Sclerosis Society, which helps people that need those resources, like that help me with my medication, the people that need someone to talk to that can relate with them. They also, of course, put funding towards new ways to deal with the experience of MS, the new different drugs out there to help people. I mean, the dynamic of where it was 30 years ago to where it is today, or even from what it was a year ago, has been just insanely changing. And so it's a good cause to reach out to. I'm fundraising for it. I'm sure many others are doing it. You can come join on the walk if you have the opportunity. If you're a first-time listener here and you have MS or know someone with MS, you don't need the disease to be able to walk or support this. I mean, Sarah's walking with me and it's awesome. But even just $1 towards that cause, or even another disease or challenge out there that other people are supporting, like it's just showing that you care about those that are challenged. And, I believe that comes full circle.
Oh, hi. Future Steven here, closing out the episode, who I guess to you is now just more recent past Steven. I come from the future with some unfortunate news. It would seem the event that Chris was talking about towards the end of the interview there has actually been canceled in an effort to stop the spread of the coronavirus. However, you can still go to nationalmssociety.org. You can donate money there. They help people with multiple sclerosis afford the costly medication that is associated with the condition, as well as fund research for new and innovative medicines. You can find me on Instagram at Overheard Orlando Podcast, or you can reach me at overheardorlandopodcast@gmail.com. As always, this is Neon Dreams, taking me back to the future. Stay true.